Welcome into the Frenzy 5. I'm Ryan Yee. Another jam-packed week of football games heading into week 6, and there's a lot to break down here. So who better to bring on than Keith Schweigert to break down some of the games that you need to watch. Another exciting week of football here, Keith. Why don't we hop right into it? Game of the week. We got Penn Manor taking on Hempfield. What's there to watch here?
Yeah, the stakes are pretty high in this one. This is a Section 1 first place battle. Hempfield Penn Manor are part of a three-way tie for first place, along with Wilson, who's always up near the top of the standings. It's a good matchup. Two teams that look pretty evenly matched on paper here. Penn Manor, they were off to a 1-2 start, but since section play has started, they've sort of put some things together. They've won 2 in a row. They beat Cedar Crest and last week knocked off Reading 36-7. So they're flying high. And Hempfield, boy, other than a loss to Central York in week 3, they have really been rolling basically all season. They look like one of the best teams in the section right now. Going to be a good challenge for Penn Manor to take on the Black Knights in Landisville in a homecoming game in Landisville. So should be a really good matchup. Players to watch for Hempfield is the quarterback, Jackson Landis. He's second on the team in rushing right now, as just short of 200 yards rushing, but 9 touchdowns. And he's also thrown for 598 yards, completed 51 of 92 passes. So you key on him, but then that opens things up for Grant Hoover, their really good running back. He has 437 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. So there are the weapons that you're really going to have to focus on if you're Penn Manor.
And now Penn Manor, Hempfield, game of the week. But like you mentioned, you add homecoming on top of all of that. Going to be a real exciting one. Obviously, a lot of stakes on the line for that too. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other games here that potentially could hit that game of the week status.
Absolutely.
Not quite here on this week, but hey, there's still a lot of fun games to watch. We'll start off with Hamburg and Lancaster Catholic, 2 undefeated teams. One's going to come out if you're still undefeated. One's going to be adding a loss there to that column. But what do you expect out of this high stakes matchup here?
Yeah, interesting matchup here. Hamburg and Lancaster Catholic, along with Schuylkill Valley, are right now tied for first place in Section 3 of the Lancaster Lebanon League. And again, things have kind of been revamped in the league because of the incursion of a bunch of Berks County schools, including Hamburg. So it's kind of a new look in the Lancaster Lebanon League. I'm not really sure if Catholic and Hamburg have tangled a whole lot in the past. So this should be a good matchup, kind of a feeling out process for both teams here. And yeah, Hamburg right now, the number 1 scoring offense in the Lancaster Lebanon League. They're averaging 51.6 points per game through their first 5 weeks. So going to be a real good challenge for Lancaster Catholic to slow this team down. Their quarterback for Hamburg is Xander Menapace. He has 709 passing yards and 8 touchdowns already through 5 games. They also have a good running back in Pierce Mason. He is second in the league in rushing right now, 847 yards, and he's found the end zone 16 times. Now, he got banged up a little bit last week in Hamburg's win over Kutztown, so I'm not really sure what his status is for Friday night. He might be hobbled a little bit. He might not play at all. That would be a big loss if he can't go for Hamburg. And then for Lancaster Catholic, they got some weapons as well. Will Cranford, the quarterback, 887 passing yards and 12 touchdowns. And Javon Parker and RJ Gonzalez are his top targets. They've combined for just short of 700 yards between the two of them and 10 touchdowns as a tandem there. So 2 really good offenses here. The defenses might struggle a little bit in this one. And again, they look pretty even on paper, so this should be a really good matchup.
Yeah, and again, both teams are undefeated going into that matchup. Going to be fun who comes out on top on that one. Speaking of another undefeated team, we're talking about Solanco here. They're heading to Twin Valley, who's sitting at 3-2, and Twin Valley will try to, I guess, give Solanco their first loss of the season. Something that you expect. What do you ultimately see coming out of this matchup?
Yeah, we got to give some shine to Solanco this week. They're 5-0. They've been quietly just putting together dominating performance after dominating performance. So, we're giving them a shout out this week. This should be a good matchup, though, because Solanco right now is tied with Elizabethtown for first place in the section. and they host Elizabethtown next week. So you hope they're not going to get caught looking ahead of this one here, and they better not, because Twin Valley just gave Elizabethtown everything it could handle last week. The Bears won that game 47-42, but they really had their hands full. So this is going to be a challenging matchup, and it's going to be a fast matchup. If you like the running game, this is the place you want to be, because both of these teams almost exclusively run the ball. Right now, Solanco has the number 3 rushing attack in the league. They're averaging 276 yards per game and at least their 6 players have at least 10 carries for the Golden Mule, so they spread it around quite a bit. That makes them a little more difficult to stop. They run a wing tee or a variant of the wing tee, which not a lot of teams run into anymore. So that's going to be a challenge for Twin Valley. And then if you're Twin Valley, they've got a good ground game as well. Running back Jaden Goebel has 372 yards and 5 touchdowns, and Evan Johnson 342 yards and 7 touchdowns. So that's kind of a 1-2 punch for them. They're averaging 232 yards per game on the ground, and they like to, again, they almost exclusively a running team. So the clock should be moving in this one. Might not take very long, but should be a very good matchup.
Now we're shifting over to our last 2 Frenzy 5 games of the week. Some early interconference matchups that we got here. Starting off with Bishop McDevitt going to Milton Hershey in a mid-pen matchup there. What do we think about this matchup between the two teams?
Well, again, McDevitt right now in a 3-way tie for first place with Hershey and Mifflin County. They lost to Imhotep Charter in their season opener, 19-14. They haven't lost since then. They were idle a week there. They had a game that got canceled a couple of weeks ago. But McDevitt is a little banged up coming into this one. Their top wide receiver, Tyshawn Russell, left last week's game against Cedar Cliff with a leg injury. It's not expected to sideline him for the rest of the year, but he might be out for this one, and that's a big loss. But, it's Bishop McDevitt. They have weapons all over the place, including Marquise Williams, their running back. He's a Minnesota recruit and is really one of the players to watch. And quarterback Stone Saunders, he's only a sophomore, hit the ground running last year as a freshman, and is picked up right where he left off this year. 981 passing yards and 8 touchdowns. So if he does what he's been doing, week in and week out, he'll be over 1,000 yards passing here in week 6. Not too shabby. So for Milton Hershey, they've lost 2 of their last 3 games. They lost to their arch rival Hershey 28-21 last week. But they did get a big effort in that game from their quarterback Kenneth Emile. He had 225 passing yards and 2 touchdowns in the losing effort last week. So he's a player to watch if you're Bishop McDevitt.
And if there's something about a dangerous team, it's a team that's coming off of a tough loss that's motivated
Absolutely.
to come in. So it'll be interesting to see how Milton Hershey responds there against Bishop McDevitt. Now moving over to the York Adams, we got a big match between Central York and Dallastown, both tied at the top of that York Adams conference. So it's going to be kind of the best of the best here in week 6. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I think Central York is probably the team to beat in Division I again this year. I'm sure York High is going to have a little bit something to say about that later in the year. But right now, yeah, first place showdown here, Central and Dallastown. The number for Central York, they have won 18 straight division games dating back to 22 straight division games dating back to 2018. So it's been a while since somebody in the regular season in that division has knocked the Panthers off. Of course, they're a little bit of a new look team this year. Bo Perbula, their all-star quarterback for 4 years, is now at Penn State. So Nasir Still has kind of taken over for him. He brings a little bit of a different feel to the offense. He's a big threat on the ground, but he's definitely a player to watch. He's really kind of absorbed that starting role and has done a great job with it so far this year. And Jules Goff, he had a big game last week in the Central York's win over Southwestern. So he's another guy that you have to watch. And then if you're Dallastown, they lost to Hempfield and Manheim Township, 2 Lancaster Lebanon League teams back-to-back to open the season, but they've won 3 in a row since then. So they're kind of on a hot streak, and now we're into division play. They can really make some noise, especially with how this race is going to turn out, if they can spring an upset here against Central York. The guy to watch for them is Kenny Williams. He had a huge game last week, basically everything you could want as a receiver. He caught a touchdown pass, and then he was voted homecoming king. So, yeah, he had a big week for them. And another note on Dallastown, they are celebrating their 75th year as a program this year. So kind of a milestone for them. They're looking to make it really something special if they can pick up an upset win here.
And again, I know it's early, but whenever you have kind of, I guess, first place bragging rights on the line
Absolutely.
here, it's always a fun game to watch when knowing that and heading into the game. So it should be interesting. Yeah, a lot of fun matchups, 5 here that you definitely will not want to miss. And again, you can catch the pregame show, 6 p.m., the high school sports frenzy on Fridays. Do a nice little pregame and tease you guys to the game of the week and all the other stuff that you can expect heading into that night. And then at 11 o'clock, we go over it all. We have the highlights and all that you need to know that happened on Friday. Keith, thank you so much. Appreciate the breakdown. I'm Ryan Yee, and that was your Frenzy 5. Enjoy the week, everybody.